Don't distract me, Darren.
Oh, your stance is all wrong.
Oh,
Pathetic.
you distracted me. You're not meant to talk. It's meant to be a quiet game of golf.
Bajo, I think I speak for both of us when I say that sport isn't exactly a strength of ours.
Agreed.
Least of all golf, which I think I've played IRL maybe like once. But with a controller in my hand, I definitely feel more comfortable. And that's how he tackled Tiger Woods' PGA Tour 14. First things first, you'll need to create your golfer. Now, I work hard to make my characters look as much like me as possible, but Bajo, how do you explain this?
Purple mustache, crazy lips. Golf is pretty serious, so you have to lighten the mood where you can, Hex.
Yeah, but you look scary.
You do look rather terrifying, Bajo.
Mission accomplished.
What about you, Darren? You can't really make your character look like you, I suppose.
Negative. There are no robot customization options. I simply chose randomize until I arrived at a visage I deemed aesthetically appealing.
Pretty dashing. But let's get to the game. If you're unsure of what new features have been added to this latest golfing adventure, the game plays a kind of trailer for itself before you start, which felt a bit odd. I mean, I've already got the game, you don't need to sell it to me. But I suppose it was quite helpful because a lot of those new features tend to get lost in all those complicated menus.
Once you've gone through the tutorial and created your character, it's time to start your career. You can play through all 4 of golf's major championships, otherwise referred to as the majors.
You can select from a number of pins to give you a few buffs out on the course, and either play through a training mode practicing against an AI opponent, or just get stuck into progressing through your career.
I liked that you could tailor your golfer's swing to make it feel unique to your own play style. You could choose to be a controlled golfer with a focus on accuracy, or a power golfer who hits stronger shots to gain more distance on the green. Charging my 2-wood. You could also adjust things like draw and fade, which determine whether you tend to curve the ball to the left or to the right.
Yes, and they are quite easy to do, but also tricky to master, and I think that's what golf is like in real life too.
This system has been refined a lot since the last game, which is good, but having a good swing isn't enough. There are also wind conditions to consider, the slope of the green, and if you don't line up that shot correctly, you could find yourself in the rough. Or worse, in the sand.
You just need to focus on your control more, Hex, not so much overswing. Plus, I found it useful to do a flyby of the course first, just so I could get a precise idea of where I wanted my ball to end up.
Yeah, thanks for the tip, Darren, but you can't talk. You hit some poor guy in the leg.
Well, he shouldn't have been so close to where my ball was going to land. It's a dangerous sport, golf.
I always like the first part of the game the most, where you're just hitting the ball as hard as you can. I do not have the patience for putting. Come on, come on, come on, come on, no! Just get in! Stupid ball! Oh, finally!
Yeah, and the crowd are always so devastated when you miss on the putting green as well, aren't they? Quiet, yes, I know, I'll get it in, just give me a sec.
Just like last year's entry, Tiger 14 also has support for Kinect and PlayStation Move, and we checked it out with the Kinect. I especially liked the little touches, such as crouching down to study the lay of your ball on the green, or looking off to the distance to survey the course.
Yeah, when it comes to actually aiming your shot and swinging the club, though, I found the Kinect had a lot of trouble registering my movement without bugging out, flipping through menus, and occasionally taking my shot for me.
Yes, and it's particularly difficult to use when you need to make those minor adjustments on the green, which you do by waving your fist in front of you. I guess it could be fun for some multiplayer shenanigans, but it felt a bit gimmicky to me, especially as the controller options are so dead on. One thing I did have a lot of fun with, though, was the Legends of the Majors mode. This lets you go back in time and complete famous tournaments from as far back as 1873 all the way through to present day. Many of them are locked to begin with, but they've unlocked a decent few throughout the timeline to give you a taste of each era, which is nice.
And it's such a clever visual touch to make each time period look authentic too, with sepia tones and scratchy film like an old movie for the 30s, the greenish hue of the Technicolor 50s film, and the muted browns of the 70s.
We had a decent go of the online multiplayer, but it's a slow waiting game, waiting for others to take their turn, and we got over it fairly quickly. Also, we couldn't access a lot of the modes because we hadn't purchased the course from the shop, which was a bit annoying.
Final thoughts, Badge?
Well, I think the interface could have been a bit neater, but I think it's better than the last game, so I'm going to give it 7.
Yeah, I like that they've really refined the style for fans of golf, but also kept it simple enough for newcomers to learn. So I'm giving it 7.5.
Right, well, we should go answer some questions at the Ask Good Game desk.
Yes.
Look after the studio, Darren.
Affirmative. And I'll be standing by on the phones.
Yeah.
Did you ever get that badger out of your sound trap?
Cricket. It's as Australian as kangaroos, koalas, and toasted cheese sandwiches. Isn't that right, Dazza?
Oh, affirmative. Australian developer Big Ant Studios has already brought us AFL Live and Rugby League Live, and now they're bringing us the Don himself with Don Bradman Cricket 14.
In case you didn't know, Sir Donald Bradman is widely considered to be one of the greatest cricketing legends of all time.
His batting average is an impressive 99.94 runs per dismissal, almost worthy of a robot.
Guys, with this game, the first thing I have to say is just play the tutorial. I jumped straight into a match and it was not pretty.
Has to regather his troops here. They need to put that missed opportunity behind them.
Another wicket falls here. The batting side are being torn to shreds.
Past cricket games have been pretty mediocre, but this one has a really deep control system. The analog stick-based mechanics make you feel like you have a lot more control than just hitting buttons.
Bowling is initiated by pressing one of the 3 pitch types. You then control the angle and type of delivery with the left thumbstick, and the bowlers jump and release with flicks of the right stick. It was fun getting the hang of all the bowling styles and getting a good line and length down.
Batting is heavily reliant on good timing. Unlike a lot of other cricket games, there is no obvious indication of where the bowler is going to pitch the ball, so you've only got a tiny opportunity to decide your shot.
I love the mechanic of looking around the field from the batter's perspective. Before the bowler starts their run-up, you can check out the field setup to find the gaps. Just a really cool point of view.
Yeah, fielding is about as involved as it can get. Fielders will automatically chase the ball, but you can choose to slide to stop a boundary, as well as choose which end to throw to and whether to target the stumps.
He's out.
Once you get your head around all of this, there's a few modes to jump into, such as casual matches to a full-blown tournament.
The career mode, built into Don Bradman Cricket 14, also lets you create your own player to take through the ranks, with your skills improving depending on how well you perform in the field.
In this mode, you only play the character that you've created. So if you haven't made a bowler, then you could potentially spend entire innings doing not much at all.
The captain wouldn't be impressed. A no ball.
You can simulate the match up until your character's next major involvement, though. And this is quite cool because it's kind of like a challenge mode, getting thrown into a game midway and trying to win it for your team from there. Also, as a batsman, I appreciated the first-person sad cam when I was dismissed.
Bang! Bowled him.
The bowler had the batsman playing all around that ball. What a delivery.
The biggest letdown for this game, which I'm sad to say is the look of it, is actually pretty ugly.
But while this could definitely do with a lot more polish, it's still leagues ahead of any other cricket game we've seen.
Affirmative. Big Ant worked with the Bradman Museum when making this game, which gave them access to some wonderful historical stuff, like classic old score sheets on the loading screens.
What are you going to give the game though, Barjo?
Well, it does have some rough edges, but it's also got solid mechanics. I'm going to give it 6.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
I was actually quite impressed with this. I'm going to give it 7.5.
Now, Goose has met a Spawnling who's not only a big gamer, but also very good at tennis. Yeah.
Okay, Barjo, time to limber up. And Darren, I hope you've oiled your joints because it's time for Connect Sports Rivals. Let's go. What's that power up?
Connect Sports Sports Rivals runs you through a series of motion control sports all set around a scenic tropical island. There's a bit of a resort feel to the activities, with traditional sports like tennis being mixed in with more extreme stuff like rock climbing and jet skiing. But before we could get to any of that, we had to get ourselves digitized.
It did feel a bit weird being scanned in such detail. You have to tilt your head around in all directions while you're scanned, and I was pretty happy with the final result.
That's easy for you to say. As usual, the Kinect discriminates against robots. No matter how patiently I tilted my gleaming metal face around, it wouldn't accept me.
Turn your head to look at Kinect, not just your eyes. You need to look directly at the Kinect sensor.
I had to give up and pick a random human character to play as. That was offensive.
Well, Darren, if it helps, I think your character suits you really well. He's exactly how I would expect a human Darren to look.
And robot incompatibility aside, the Kinect mostly worked quite well. The sporty version of me responded accurately, especially in the soccer game, which was a lot of fun. There's no running around to worry about, you just have to time your passes, then go for a shot on goal.
Kicking has never been my strong point, so I was glad to see that you can head it into the goal as well. Goal!
Yeah, they've really nailed the soccer, haven't they?
Goal!
Yes, we heard you, Darren.
It's got such a quick pace to it, and I rarely had any complaints about how it captured my leg kicks.
Whatever your plan is, better do it fast.
Plus, getting to switch around and act as the goalie is really clever.
The other sport that I really liked was the rock climbing. You just reach up with an open hand and then close it around the hold you want. I found I could get a pretty good climbing rhythm going, and landing big jumps feels good too.
First place finish.
In fact, Hex, if I do say so myself, I am so good at the rock climbing that I'm pretty much Spider-Man.
Okay, Webhead, you talk a big game, but let's see how you handle the real competition. It's time to see who the office champion is.
Let's do it.
Affirmative.
All right, guys, I think I'm gonna need my hands for this. Darren, can you help?
Charging my laser.
Thanks, Darren. All right, let's do this.
Yeah, excuse me, Hex.
Wait.
I just pretend that there's a cheese sandwich at the top of it. Oh, yes.
All right.
Smashing it.
Oh
Smashing
no!
it.
You will not overtake me!
Oh, no! For bowling, I like to do a bit of a dance.
Okay.
Let's do some bowling.
The novelty hasn't worn off, has it, Barjo?
Make him dance. It could be a dancing game.
It's not a dancing game, Barjo.
This is more fun than the bowling.
You must bowl. Pick up the ball and bowl. Remember your training, Barjo.
Straight in a line.
Yes. Oh!
That was so gonna go in the thing. I really thought that was gonna go in the trench thing.
We all did.
Maybe the game just adjusted it to make you feel better.
Maybe I'm that good because of my awesome dance. The game is pretty fun, especially when you're playing with friends. Same can't be said for the single player though. The artificial intelligence was so bad that I'd often be outscoring them by huge amounts. These matches just felt like a glorified practice mode.
Affirmative. And the so-called storyline was laughably bad. Your coach keeps subjecting you to his painful puns.
Face front, you're about to get court-martialed. On the tennis court! That's right.
I know, those cutscenes made me cringe too.
Oh, you wish you had Coach's natural gift for comedy.
Just cut to the sports already.
Some of the events let the game down as well.
Through the gates, step on it.
Jet skiing looks good, especially the water. But those controls were so loose, I just kept oversteering into obstacles. Plus, I couldn't help but feel a little silly holding onto imaginary handlebars. They're so hard to control. I did a backflip! Perfect.
Really? Sillier than target shooting with your finger? Pew pew! Pew pew! Pew pew! You know, I like the Kinect. I think the scanning technology is really cool, but it really only registered my movements about 90% of the time, and I don't think that's accurate enough for a game like this, so I'm giving it a 6 out of 10.
I'm gonna give it 6.5.